Ethan Carter had always been a fan of cheap rent. As a struggling university student on Mars Colony Theta, he couldn't afford luxury apartments with artificial lakes and gravity adjustment pods. Instead, he found himself in a small, dusty room inside an old research facility, one that had long been abandoned by scientists. The rent was low, the air filters worked, mostly, and the only odd thing about the place was a strange metal pod sitting in the storage closet. It was huge, 7 feet tall, covered in faded alien symbols, and completely sealed. The landlord had shrugged when Ethan asked about it. Some old research junk, the man had said. Don't touch it, and it won't bother you. That had been fine with Ethan. He had no interest in mysterious alien artifacts. He just wanted a place to sleep, study, and occasionally eat instant noodles. But everything changed on a particularly bad night. It started with a failed assignment. Ethan had spent 5 hours working on his engineering project, only for his old, glitchy computer to crash and delete everything. Frustrated and exhausted, he grabbed his cup of hot Martian coffee and paced around the room, mumbling to himself. Then, as fate would have it, his clumsy foot caught on a loose floor panel. Crash! Ethan went flying. The coffee cup slipped from his hand, and before he could even react, the steaming liquid splashed all over the strange metal pod. For a moment, nothing happened. Ethan groaned, rubbing his sore elbow as he sat up. He cursed at the mess, already dreading the cleanup. Then, just as he reached for a towel, his room filled with a low, mechanical hum. Ethan froze. The pod, silent for who knows how many years, lit up. Glowing blue lines ran across its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. A deep, metallic voice spoke in an alien language. Then, with a loud hiss, the pod opened. A cloud of cold mist spilled onto the floor. Ethan stumbled back, heart pounding as a tall figure slowly stepped out. It was not human. The being stood at 7 feet, towering over Ethan. Its skin was metallic silver, smooth like polished steel, yet somehow flexible. Glowing teal eyes scanned the room with an intense, intelligent gaze. Long, sharp ridges ran along its forearms and shoulders, giving it a warrior-like appearance. It was dressed in a dark, form-fitting suit that seemed both ancient and advanced at the same time. For a long, tense moment, the alien simply stared at Ethan. Then, to Ethan's shock, it spoke. "What year is this?" The alien's voice was feminine, but laced with a mechanical undertone. Like it wasn't fully awake yet. Ethan blinked. His brain struggled to process the fact that he had just woken up an actual alien. I don't know how to say this politely, but who are you? And also, are you going to eat me? The alien frowned. Eat you? Why would I consume an inferior biological organism? Oh, well, that's kinda rude, but also kinda relieving. The alien tilted her head, analyzing him. You are human, the dominant species of this era. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah. We kinda run things now. The alien went silent. Her glowing eyes flickered, as if processing a vast amount of information. Then she muttered something in her own language before turning her gaze back to Ethan. Unacceptable. My people were the rulers of this galaxy. I must have slept longer than intended. Ethan swallowed. How long were you asleep? The alien woman raised a hand, pressing a symbol on her wrist device. A holographic display flickered to life. The numbers flashed rapidly, calculating the time difference between when she went into stasis and now. Then she stiffened. 10,000 years. Ethan let out a nervous laugh. Yeah, welcome to the future, I guess. The alien slowly exhaled, her body tensing. This is inconvenient. Ethan scratched his head. Yeah, I can imagine. Listen, what's your name? She looked at him for a moment, then answered, Zyrakel. Cool. Well, Zira, I'm Ethan, and this is my apartment. Technically, my storage closet. But now that you're here, I guess I have an alien roommate. Zira crossed her arms, scanning the room with a critical eye. Primitive living conditions. Hey, rude. She turned back to him. I require information. I must understand how humanity has replaced my people. I need data. Ethan hesitated. Like, what kind of data? Zyra's eyes glowed brighter. All of it. Ethan Carter sat on his worn-out couch, staring at the 7-foot-tall alien pacing in his tiny apartment. Zyra Kell, a warrior scientist from a long-extinct civilization, had just woken up after 10,000 years of stasis, and she was not taking it well. Her glowing teal eyes scanned every inch of the room, her metallic fingers tapping against her armored forearm as she processed what she had learned so far. Humans ruled the galaxy. Not her people. Not the great, powerful empire she had once known, but humans. Impossible, she muttered, pausing to glare at Ethan like it was his fault. Look, I get that this is a shock, Ethan said, raising his hands in defense. But, you're here now. And you kinda have to deal with it. Zira narrowed her eyes at him. I will deal with it by gathering knowledge. I must understand what has changed. How did humanity rise? What technology do you possess? What weaknesses do you have? Ethan gulped. Weaknesses. She waved a hand. For scientific purposes. That didn't make him feel any better. Zara turned her attention to his old, outdated computer. She walked over and placed a hand on it. Blue circuits along her skin glowed as she interfaced with the machine. The screen flickered. Hey, careful with that, Ethan protested. Zara didn't respond. Her eyes darted back and forth as if she was reading thousands of lines of data in seconds. Ethan watched in mild horror as she absorbed information at an impossible speed. This is basic, she finally said, looking almost disappointed. Human technology is impressive, but still lacking in many ways. Ethan scoffed. Lacking? We literally terraformed Mars. Zira crossed her arms. And yet, your computing systems are inefficient. Your planetary defenses are outdated. Your space travel is limited. Ethan raised an eyebrow. And you know this because I have read everything in your device. Ethan blinked. Wait, everything. That was like 100 gigabytes of data. Zira shrugged. I have processed more in less than a second before. Ethan stared. You're like an alien supercomputer. She tilted her head. A crude but acceptable description. Ethan sighed and rubbed his temples. Okay, fine. You want information. Use the net. That's where all the latest data is. Zira frowned. Net? Ethan pointed to his computer. The Galactic Network. It's like a giant digital library, full of human history, science, culture. He didn't get to finish. The moment Zyra heard the word library, she hacked into the Galactic Network. The screen flashed. Lines of code flooded the display as she bypassed security protocols, decrypted restricted files, and downloaded massive amounts of information at an insane speed. Ethan panicked. Wait. That's illegal. Zira ignored him. She stood frozen, her body radiating soft blue light as she processed thousands of years of human history. Wars, discoveries, the rise of Earth's first space fleets, the colonization of Mars, the battle against the Sci-Fi Empire, the formation of the United Earth Federation. Then, suddenly, she stopped. The glow in her eyes dimmed, and she staggered back. Ethan jumped forward. Hey, are you okay? Zira exhaled sharply. Her body trembled slightly. For the first time since she woke up, she looked uncertain. This is overwhelming. Ethan nodded. Yeah, no kidding. You just stuffed 10,000 years of history into your brain in like 5 minutes. Zira sat down, processing what she had learned. Humanity was not the strongest, not the smartest, not the most advanced, and yet you are here. You survived. You conquered. Ethan smirked. That's kinda what we do. Zira's fingers tapped against her knee. Your species is remarkable. Ethan grinned. Yeah, we get that a lot. Zira suddenly stood up. Her expression had changed. It was no longer just curiosity. It was determination. I must learn more, she declared. I must experience this new world for myself. Ethan's stomach dropped. What do you mean by experience? Zira turned to him, her eyes flashing. I wish to explore this colony. Ethan groaned. Oh no. Zira ignored his reaction. Where do humans acquire knowledge? Universities. Zira nodded. I will go to your university. Ethan's eyes widened. What? No. You can't just walk into a university looking like you. Zira frowned. Is my form unacceptable? Ethan hesitated. No, you're too noticeable. People are gonna freak out. Zira smirked. I will not be detected. Ethan narrowed his eyes. And how exactly? Before he could finish, Zira activated some sort of cloaking technology. Her metallic skin shimmered for a second, then faded into a more human-like tone. Her glowing teal eyes dimmed, taking on a natural brown shade. Her armor shifted, rearranging into something that resembled normal human clothing. Ethan's jaw dropped. Holy. Your university, Zira said, adjusting her posture to mimic human behavior. Take me there. Now. Ethan groaned and buried his face in his hands. I am so gonna get arrested for this. Then Carter regretted everything. One moment, he was living a normal life on Mars Colony Theta, struggling with university, eating instant noodles, and occasionally questioning his life choices. Now he was sneaking an ancient alien warrior scientist into his university. This was a bad idea. Yet here he was, walking through the crowded halls of Theta University with Zira Kell right beside him. Her disguise was working too well. Her once metallic silver skin was now a smooth tan complexion. Her glowing teal eyes had shifted to deep brown, and her battle armor had rearranged into a sleek black jacket and jeans. She looked normal, except for one problem. Zira had no idea how to act human. She walked with perfect posture, her head held too high, her movements too precise. Every step she took looked planned, every glance calculated. People noticed. Why do they keep staring? Zira muttered under her breath. Ethan sighed. Because you look like a government spy. She frowned. I am merely analyzing my surroundings. Yeah, well, stop looking like you're scanning targets for assassination. Zira tilted her head slightly, her eyes narrowing. Humans have strange social rules. Ethan groaned. Yeah, and if you want to blend in, you gotta follow them. Zira nodded. Understood. For a moment, Ethan felt relieved. Then she did the most unnatural thing possible. She grinned. It was not a normal, friendly smile. It was wide, sharp, and unsettling, like a robot attempting human emotion for the first time. A passing student saw her expression and nearly tripped. Ethan quickly grabbed her arm and pulled her aside. Okay, no smiling. Ever. Zira raised an eyebrow. Smiling is a threat gesture. For you? Yes. She huffed. Humans are fragile. Ethan shook his head. Come on, let's just get to the library before someone calls security. Knowledge overload. The Theta University Grand Library was one of the largest digital archives on Mars. Zira loved it instantly. She whispered, eyes wide with wonder as she looked at the endless shelves and holographic data terminals. This is a place of great power. Ethan smirked. It's just a library. She turned to him, her expression serious. Knowledge is power. And this place holds the combined wisdom of your species. I must learn all of it. Ethan sighed. Yeah, just don't hack the system this time, okay? Zira sat down at a terminal, her fingers hovering over the glowing interface. She exhaled softly, then began her work. Ethan watched as her eyes flickered with energy, scanning through thousands of books and research papers in seconds. Students around them glanced her way, noticing how fast she was working. "Cheese, typing at like 500 words per minute," someone whispered. "That's not normal," another student muttered. Ethan's stomach twisted. Oh no. Then things got worse. The mistake. Zyra, in her unstoppable thirst for knowledge, accidentally bypassed a classified firewall. Suddenly, alarms blared. Warning. Unauthorized access DTTCT. Ethan's heart dropped. Students froze, looking around in confusion. Security drones whirred to life, scanning the room for the intruder. Ethan turned to Zyra, panic on his face. "What did you do?" Zyra blinked. "I accessed a restricted database. Your security measures are weak." Ethan groaned. "Why?" Zyra shrugged. "The data was labeled top secret. That means it must be important." Ethan wanted to scream. "Zyra, that's government-level security." Before she could respond, security officers entered the library. The escape plan. All students remain seated. A voice boomed over the intercom. A security breach. HASBEENDTTCT. Ethan grabbed Zyra's wrist. "We need to go. Now." She frowned. "I can disable them." Ethan's eyes widened. No fighting. Just run." Zyra sighed, but followed. They darted between bookshelves, dodging security drones scanning for the hacker. A voice crackled over the speakers. "The intruder is in the library. Lockdown protocol engage." Doors slammed shut. Zyra looked at Ethan. "Your escape routes are inefficient." Ethan groaned. Not helping. They reached a dead end. Security officers were moving in fast. Zyra glanced at a window. "That is our exit." Ethan followed her gaze. "That's the 4th floor." Zyra smirked. "Your bones will heal." Ethan paled. "I like my bonies in one piece." But Zyra didn't wait. She grabbed him by the waist end. Crash. They smashed through the glass, falling towards the street below. Ethan screamed. Zyra didn't. At the last second, she activated some kind of gravity dampener, slowing their descent. They landed with a soft thud in an alleyway. Ethan groaned. Never again. Zyra dusted herself off. That was exhilarating. Ethan glared. "We are so wanted criminals now." Zyra's eyes sparkled. "Then we should leave before they arrive." Ethan sighed. "Yeah, no kidding." In the distance, sirens wailed. They had seconds before security arrived, and Ethan had a feeling this was only the beginning. Ethan Carter never ran this fast in his life. His legs burned, his lungs ached, and his mind screamed bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. But none of that mattered because behind him, security drones zipped through the air, scanning the streets for him and Zyra. "Stop running inefficiently," Zyra Kell said as she ran beside him. She wasn't even out of breath. Ethan glared at her. "We are escaping a high-security low-security domain. You want to run more efficiently? Be my guest." Zyra sighed and suddenly grabbed him. "Wah. Hey." She lifted him like he weighed nothing and jumped 3 stories onto a rooftop. Ethan's brain shut down for a second. His feet dangled helplessly in the air before Zyra finally dropped him onto the rooftop. "Ow," he groaned, rubbing his back. "A little warning next time." Zyra ignored him, scanning the streets below. Security forces were everywhere. Armed officers moved in formation, blocking exits, checking vehicles, and scanning people for biosignatures. "They are tracking us," Zyra said. Ethan ran his hands through his hair, panicking. "Of course they are. We broke into a classified database, destroyed university property, and jumped out of a building. They're gonna hunt us down. Zira tilted her head. Then we must not be found. Ethan groaned. Yeah, I got that part. But how? Zira reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small silver device. It hummed softly as she pressed a button. Within seconds, the security drones in the air fizzled and powered down, falling harmlessly to the ground. Ethan's jaw dropped. Did you just shut down all their drones? Zira nodded. Their scanning systems are primitive, easily disrupted. Ethan stared at her. That's terrifying. Zira smirked. Efficient. Before Ethan could argue, a voice echoed through the city. Attention, citizens. 2 fugitives are on the loose. Any information leading to their capture will be rewarded. Ethan froze. People in the streets started checking their holo devices, scanning the news, talking in hushed voices. A picture of him and Zira flashed on massive digital billboards. Ethan groaned. We are so dead. A dangerous shortcut. We need to leave the city, Zira said, her eyes scanning for an escape route. Ethan sighed. Yeah, but security's locking down all major transport. How do we get out? Zira pointed toward a dark alleyway. Through there. Ethan hesitated. That looks like a place where people go in and don't come out. Zira grabbed his wrist. Then we must ensure we are not the ones who do not come out. Ethan groaned. Great, super comforting. They slipped into the alleyway, moving between old rusted storage units and abandoned cargo crates. The deeper they went, the darker and quieter it became. Ethan shivered. Okay, seriously, where does this lead? Zira paused at a metal door covered in scratched graffiti. Underground transport tunnels. Ethan blinked. Wait, the old metro system. That's been shut down for years. Zira punched the control panel. Sparks flew as the lock clicked open. It is not shut down anymore. Ethan stared at her. You really like breaking things, don't you? Zira smirked. Only when necessary. The door creaked open, revealing a long staircase leading downward into darkness. Cold air drifted up from Bell, carrying the scent of rust, old metal, and damp stone. Ethan gulped. Yup, definitely a bad idea. But before he could protest, Zira pushed him inside. The underground chase. The underground tunnels were massive, stretching out in both directions like endless steel veins beneath the city. Dim emergency lights flickered, casting eerie shadows along the walls. Ethan shivered. Okay, we're in. Now what? Zira tapped her wrist, activating a small holographic map. There is an abandoned transit station ahead. If we reach it, we can steal a vehicle and escape the city perimeter. Ethan frowned. Steal? You mean borrow, right? Zira shrugged. Ethan sighed. Figures. They moved quickly through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing in the emptiness. Ethan tried not to think about the rumors. Stories of mutants, scavengers, and rogue AI lurking in these abandoned systems. Then suddenly, a red warning light flickered overhead. Ethan stopped. Oh, what's that? Zira narrowed her eyes. Motion sensors. A robotic voice echoed through the tunnels. Unauthorized movement detected. Security response initiated. Ethan paled. That's not good. From the shadows, mechanical whirring filled the air. Then they saw them. Security automated enforcers. 4-legged metallic machines with glowing red eyes, sharp claws, and built-in plasma weapons. And they were coming fast. Ethan panicked. Okay, this is really bad. Zira stepped forward, her body glowing with energy. Ethan grabbed her arm. No fighting. We're supposed to be hiding. Zira hesitated, then grabbed Ethan again and ran. The robotic enforcers chased them, their metallic limbs clanking against the tunnel floor. Red targeting lasers painted the walls as the machines prepared to fire. Ethan panted. How do we escape? Zira's eyes flashed. There. She pointed to an old metro train, rusted but still intact on the tracks. Ethan's eyes widened. That thing hasn't worked in years. Zira smirked. It does now. She jumped onto the train, her hands glowing as she overloaded the system. Sparks flew, and the train roared to life. Ethan barely managed to climb in before the doors slammed shut. The old machine lurched forward, speeding down the tunnel just as the robotic enforcers opened fire. Bolts of energy exploded against the train's metal frame, but it held. Ethan collapsed onto the seat, gasping for air. Zira stood calmly, watching the security enforcers fade into the distance. Ethan wiped his face. "I am never trusting you with travel plans again." Zira grinned. "We escaped." Ethan groaned. "Barely." Zira's expression turned serious. "But we are not safe yet." Ethan's stomach dropped. Somehow he knew this was far from over. The old metro train rumbled through the abandoned tunnels, shaking with every turn. Ethan Carter clutched the seat tightly, his heart still racing from their narrow escape. Zira Kell, on the other hand, looked completely calm. She stood near the front, her glowing fingers pressed against the train's broken control panel, keeping the old system running. Ethan groaned. "Okay, we escaped the robots, but where does this thing even go?" Zira didn't look up. "The tracks lead beyond the city perimeter. Once we reach the outskirts, we can find a new hiding place." Ethan exhaled. "Good, because I really don't want to spend the night in a metal coffin." Zira raised an eyebrow. "This is not a coffin." Ethan waved his hands. "It feels like one. Dark tunnels, broken train, the fact that we're wanted criminals. Do I need to continue?" Zira simply shrugged. "We are not dead. That is what matters." Ethan rubbed his temples. "Yeah, great, super comforting." But before they could relax, a new problem appeared. The derailment. The train suddenly jerked violently to the side. Ethan yelled, grabbing onto the nearest handle to avoid falling over. Sparks flew as the metal wheels screeched against the old damaged tracks. The train tilted dangerously, nearly flipping over. "What's happening?" Ethan shouted. Zira narrowed her eyes. "The tracks are damaged." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Can you fix it?" Zira's hands glowed brighter as she tried to stabilize the power flow, but it was too late. The front wheels slammed into a broken section of track, and the entire train derailed. Ethan barely had time to brace himself before the world flipped upside down. Crash landing. The train skidded along the tunnel floor, metal screeching against stone. Sparks lit up the darkness as the entire vehicle slammed into a pile of rubble, finally coming to a stop. Dust filled the air. Silence followed. For a moment, Ethan didn't move. Everything hurt. He groaned, coughing as he tried to sit up. "Zira." A sharp noise made him turn. Zira was already standing, brushing dust off her jacket. Her alien resilience made her look completely unharmed. Ethan, however, felt like he had been hit by a truck. He groaned again. "That sucked." Zira offered her hand. "We survived." Ethan grumbled as he took her hand and pulled himself up. Barely. The train was a total wreck. Sparks popped from exposed wires, and broken glass littered the ground. Zira examined the damage. "We must continue on foot." Ethan sighed. "Of course we do." Deeper into the unknown. With no other choice, they left the wreckage behind and started walking deeper into the tunnel. The air grew colder, and the faint hum of the city above faded away. The deeper they went, the more Ethan felt like they were leaving civilization behind. "This place feels wrong," Ethan muttered. Zira nodded. "It is ancient." Ethan frowned. "How ancient?" Zira traced her fingers along the tunnel wall. "Older than your colony, possibly older than human presence on Mars." Ethan shivered. "Great, that's not creepy at all." Then they heard it. A low, rumbling sound. Ethan froze. "Did you hear that?" Zira's eyes narrowed. "We are not alone." A shape moved in the darkness ahead. Something big, The hidden threat. Ethan's breath caught. Tell me that's just a harmless underground animal. Zura's voice was cold. It is not. The shadows shifted, and suddenly, a massive figure stepped into view. It was not human. Its body was covered in dark, armored plating, its limbs long and unnaturally sharp. Glowing red eyes locked onto them, and a deep, guttural clicking sound echoed through the tunnel. Ethan took a step back. That's not a robot. Zura's muscles tensed. No, it is something far worse. The creature let out a low growl, then lunged. Zura moved instantly, shoving Ethan aside just as clawed fingers swiped at the air where he had been standing. Ethan hit the ground, his heart pounding. Okay, yep, definitely worse than a robot. Zura dodged another attack, her movements swift and precise. The creature roared and swung one of its massive arms. Zura caught it midair, her feet digging into the ground as she held back the force. Ethan's eyes widened. You're actually holding it back. Zura gritted her teeth. Not for long. The creature growled and shoved forward, sending Zura skidding backwards. Ethan scrambled to his feet. What do we do? Zura's eyes glowed. We fight. Ethan gulped. I was afraid you'd say that. The battle begins. The creature charged again, its claws slashing toward Zura. This time, she countered. Her hand crackled with energy as she struck the beast's arm, sending a shockwave through the tunnel. The creature staggered, snarling. Ethan, meanwhile, did what he did best. Panic. Okay. Think, Ethan. How do you help in a fight against a giant underground alien monster? His eyes darted around the tunnel. Then he saw it. A loose metal pipe. It wasn't much, but it was something. He grabbed it, gripping it tightly. All right, big guy. Let's see how you like a little human improvisation. He swung the pipe, and the creature barely flinched. Ethan blinked. Oh, that did nothing. The creature turned toward him. Ethan's stomach dropped. Oh. Zura moved instantly. She leaped between them, delivering a powerful kick to the creature's head, knocking it back. She turned to Ethan. Stay behind me. Ethan didn't argue. The creature let out an enraged roar and charged again. Zura clenched her fists. Let's finish this. The underground tunnel shook as the massive creature let out a thunderous roar. Its glowing red eyes burned through the darkness, locked onto Ethan and Zura with deadly intent. Ethan gripped the metal pipe in his hands, his heart pounding. He knew it wouldn't do much against the monster, but he had to do something. Zura, standing in front of him, took a step forward. Her blue energy aura flared brighter, casting flickering shadows against the tunnel walls. This thing isn't going to back off, is it? Ethan asked, his voice tight with fear. No, Zura said. It sees us as a threat. Ethan swallowed hard. Then we make it regret that. The creature charged, its massive claws slicing through the air. Zura dodged, moving with inhuman speed. She spun around and delivered a powerful energy-infused punch to its side. A shockwave rippled through the tunnel as the hit connected, sending the creature stumbling backward. Ethan's eyes widened. Okay, that was awesome. But the creature wasn't done. It snarled, then swung its massive tail. Zura didn't have time to dodge. The tail slammed into her, sending her flying into the tunnel wall with a loud crash. Zura, Ethan shouted. She fell to her knees, coughing, but quickly pushed herself up. I am fine, she said, wiping blue blood from her lip. But it is stronger than expected. The creature roared again, charging toward her. Ethan's mind raced. He needed to help. But how? Then he saw something. Old power cables running along the tunnel walls. His brain clicked. Electricity. Zura, keep it distracted. Ethan yelled as he ran toward the cables. Zura didn't ask questions. She leaped back into the fight, dodging another swipe from the creature's massive claws. She delivered a series of rapid strikes, her glowing fists landing like explosions against its armored body. Meanwhile, Ethan grabbed the old cables and started yanking them loose. Sparks flew as the metal wires snapped free. "Okay, please still work," Ethan muttered as he dragged the sparking cables toward the creature. Zira saw what he was doing. Understanding flashed in her eyes. She dodged another attack and suddenly grabbed the monster's arm, holding it in place. "Now, Ethan," she shouted. Ethan didn't hesitate. He threw the exposed cables onto the creature's back. A burst of electricity surged through the monster's body. It let out a horrifying scream, its red eyes flickering as the powerful current coursed through it. Zira jumped away just as the creature collapsed, convulsing from the shock. Then, with one final guttural growl, it stopped moving. Silence filled the tunnel. Ethan stared at the creature's motionless form, his breathing ragged. Did we just win? Zira nudged the creature with her foot. It didn't move. "Yes," she said simply. Ethan let out a relieved laugh and dropped the metal pipe. "Oh man, that was insane." Zira turned to him, a small smirk on her face. "You improvised well." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Did you just give me a compliment?" Zira crossed her arms. "Do not get used to it." Ethan chuckled. Noted. The hidden door. Now that the fight was over, Ethan noticed something strange. The impact of the battle had loosened part of the tunnel wall. Behind it, something shimmered faintly in the dim light. "What's that?" Ethan asked, stepping closer. Zira examined it carefully, then pressed her glowing hand against the surface. The hidden panel clicked open, revealing a metallic doorway. Ethan's eyes widened. "Okay, that's definitely not part of the old metro system." Zira narrowed her eyes. "No, this is something much older." Ethan exhaled. "Well, we just fought a giant underground monster. Might as well see what else this place is hiding." Zira nodded. Agreed. She pressed another button, and with a hiss, the door slowly slid open. A soft blue glow illuminated the space beyond. Ethan and Zira exchanged a look, then stepped inside. The metallic door slid open, revealing a chamber bathed in a soft blue glow. Ethan hesitated at the entrance, his breath caught in his throat. "This place, it's not part of the old tunnels, is it?" he asked. Zira stepped forward, scanning the area with sharp eyes. "No, this was built long before your people arrived on Mars." Ethan swallowed. "Great, because nothing ancient ever turns out to be dangerous." Zira gave him a flat look. "We just fought a tunnel monster. That should not surprise you." Ethan sighed. "Fair point." They stepped inside. The forgotten chamber. The chamber was massive, far larger than it looked from the outside. Strange symbols lined the metallic walls, pulsing faintly as if responding to their presence. In the center of the room stood a large circular console, its surface smooth and humming with energy. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "This looks advanced, like alien advanced." Zira nodded. "It is." She placed her glowing hand on the console. The moment she did, the entire room came to life. The walls shifted, revealing holographic screens filled with alien text and images. A faint hum filled the air as ancient machinery awakened. Ethan stepped back. Should we be worried?" Zira's eyes scanned the symbols, her expression unreadable. "This is a control room," she finally said. "But for what, I am not sure." Ethan exhaled. "Fantastic. You mean we just turned on a mystery machine?" Before Zira could answer, a deep voice echoed through the chamber. "Axis Gigriantid." Ethan jumped. Who said that? A holographic figure materialized before them. It was tall and humanoid, with glowing blue eyes and a sleek metallic form. The figure's face was featureless except for the faint outlines of a mouth and nose, giving it an eerie yet oddly human-like appearance. Zira narrowed her eyes. "This is an eye." The figure turned toward them. "Welcome, Zira Kell of the Vayari and human Ethan Carter." Ethan's jaw dropped. "Wait, it knows our names." Zera remained calm. This system must have been tracking us. The AI continued. You have awakened the last remnants of the Guardian program. State your purpose. Ethan blinked. Guardian program. What's that? Zera studied the AI, the defense system, most likely. Ethan didn't like the sound of that. Defense against what? The AI's glowing eyes flickered. The Devourers. Ethan shivered at the name alone. That does not sound friendly. Zera's expression darkened. No, it does not. The truth revealed. The AI raised a hand, and a holographic display appeared. It showed a planetary map with dozens of red markers spread across the surface. Ethan's stomach twisted. Are those enemy locations? The AI responded. Long ago, an ancient war was fought here. The Devourers were a species that sought to consume all biological life. This facility was built to stop them. Zera's gaze hardened. And did it work? The AI hesitated. For a time. But the war was lost. The Guardians were destroyed. This outpost remained dormant. Until now. Ethan's heart sank. So, if the war was lost, does that mean those things are still out there? The AI's blue eyes dimmed. Possibly. The system has detected recent anomalous activity beneath the Martian surface. Zera exchanged a look with Ethan. The creature we fought earlier. Ethan froze. Oh no. What if that thing wasn't just some random monster? What if it was one of the Devourers? The AI's gaze sharpened. If that is true, then Mars is in grave danger. A desperate choice. Zera turned back to the console. Can this facility be reactivated? The AI hesitated. The power core is damaged. Repairs must be completed. Ethan exhaled. Great. So what do we do? Just leave and hope the underground monsters don't take over the planet. Zera shook her head. No, we fight. Ethan laughed nervously. Fight. Zera, I don't know if you noticed, but we barely survived fighting one of those things. If there are more. Zera turned to him. I know, but this facility was built to stop them. If we repair it, we may have a chance. Ethan hesitated. Everything in his gut told him this was insanely dangerous. He was just a regular guy. He wasn't a soldier, a hero, or an alien warrior. But he had come this far. He looked at Zera, at the determination in her glowing eyes. If she was willing to fight for this, then so was he. Ethan took a deep breath and nodded. All right. What do we need to fix? The AI's eyes brightened. Repair the power core, and the defense systems will reactivate. Zera clenched her fists. Then let's get to work. The final stand begins. As they prepared for their mission, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. If the Devourers were really waking up, then the real fight for Mars was still ahead. But this time, humanity wouldn't be alone. Zera and Ethan had each other. And together, they were ready.